This is a very different layout and very different scenario than you're used to seeing on your Monday nights. So I guess this is going to be something we're going to have going for basically the next couple weeks here. Um, and I don't want to speak to it too much because I don't know as much about it as I would like to, but there is somebody here who does, and that would be Greg. So Greg, why don't you just go ahead and tell people who you are, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on here.
Golly, who I am is a really big question. Like, how far do we want to go back?
I mean,
I
we've got at least 50 minutes,
at
so
least at least 50 minutes to fill. So, vamp. I am I am Greg Leatherman. Have I'm a part of a bunch of different podcasts. My actual play podcast is Very Random Encounters. My other big podcast that I co-host is It's Super Effective, a Pokemon podcast. Um, and I have been playing tabletop RPGs for a long time now. I think I started like when every good person starts, apparently when you're 11. So it was 1981 when everything was fresh and new. And so have written a bunch of different things, but never anything like official. Like I've written hacks and classes and changes. And when I was doing Mythical, which is a Pokemon D&D actual play podcast that we do on and off, mostly off. So I had to write a bunch of stuff for fifth edition to make a Pokemon tamer and Pokemon work in the D&D setting. And then so that's sort of like a bunch of my hacking stuff. And then I had a bunch of friends who really wanted a very specific type of superhero game that didn't exist out in the world, or it does, but not in manners that I felt or that they felt were easily accessible. So I took it upon myself. I'm like, well, I'll just write something for all of us. And that was a year and a half ago. And now I have an actual, like, huge final document that I decided, you know what, this is an actual game. Um, so I wrote a magical transforming heroes game called Glitter Hearts.
and
Set inspired by the Apocalypse game engine, and it is on Kickstarter right now.
yeah, let me just drop a link to the Kickstarter here.
Which just funded.
It
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so that is great news, and I believe there's still how long? 23 days left to go.
23 days left. So
are we in stretch goal mode?
We're
at the
in
moment?
stretch goal mode at this point.
So there is a link there in the chat if anybody would like to go ahead and check it out. And we will jump back to more about Glitter Hearts in just a minute, but I wanted to, some of you may be familiar, Brenna has been on the channel here before, but I would like you to take some time and no stranger to Kickstarter, for sure, but why don't we have, you give a little introduction about yourself and let people know who you are as well.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Brenna. Happy to be back on Nerd Immersion. You guys may know me from Polyhero Dice. We make those dice that when everybody looks at them, they go, whoa, what are those? Are those actually dice? Yes, they are. So I help make those. I also work with Starling Games, who's a tabletop game publisher. We do games like Everdell, Alien Frontiers, Archmage. You may know us from that stuff. And I'm also online a lot, so you may just know me from Twitter and hanging out.
All right.
Or have seen me at a convention, because I go to almost every convention.
She is at pretty much every tabletop convention, at least everyone that I go to, or really even if it's not tabletop, she's also there.
Yeah, East Coast, Midwest, we got it covered.
Yeah, so, but all around great products. You still with Board Game Booster Box? Is that still happening too, or?
Yeah, like they're like a part of our company that I personally don't work that much with, but yeah, they're part of the company.
Well, either way, very good stuff. There's a lot of interviews with Brenna here on the Nerd Immersion YouTube channel. So you can be sure to go and check those out if you're interested to see us in the field. Okay. So I think it's clear, obviously, by the layout and the fact that we're here, that we're all fans of any kind of magical transformation uh, anime of any kind. Um, and I'm sure there are specific ones here that everybody is a fan of. My personal favorite myself would have to be Sailor Moon, because that's the first anime that I ever saw in my entire life when Toonami brought it over here, like for after school time, for me. And I was like, what is this weird style of things? But also, this is really cool. And like,
Yeah.
my sister's 6 years younger than me, so she was super into it. So it was like a cool thing we did to bond. And then that spiraled into every other anime that Toonami ever put out, right? So Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, and forever on from there. Um, and I forget how this came up at Gen Con this year, but like I remember very distinctly, we're just like, oh, we should play a game, and then like out of nowhere, Greg's just like this one, psh, and he just like pulls out like his manuscript of the game, and I was like, okay. And then we just, unfortunately, timing didn't work out. But hey, it's live. It's been funded on Kickstarter. So, what better way and to get some press out there for the game than to build characters and then actually play through a game, and not only that, but with the person who made it running the game. I feel like that's the
Yeah,
dream.
there's nothing better.
So why don't we talk a little bit about the game, Greg? So I know you and Brenna had spoke a little beforehand,
Yeah.
but like what let's talk system and how things work, and then we can talk about the specifics of the game itself.
So it's Powered by the Apocalypse game system, which is well known. It's well known for a couple of things. One, it only requires 2 6-sided die. And it also is known for the fact that the GM never rolls a single die. I never make a single roll. It's all on how well you all do with the rolls that you're making. And so there are basically 3 states of success or failure. So if you get a 10 or above on your roll, you completely succeed at whatever you're doing. If you get between a 7 and 9, you have a mixed success, and the results of that mixed success are dependent on what's happening narratively in the story, as well as what move you are making. So depending on what you were doing, you get different options. And a 6 or less, you fail. One of the big things for characters, whenever you fail, you mark down an experience point. So whenever you fail a roll for any reason, you mark down experience. And then I get to make what are called moves against the players. So GMs have 2 basic types of moves. There's soft moves and hard moves. So soft moves are setting things up for you all to react to. So like a soft move would be you're in a theater after the movie's done, and you see a shadow up in the projection booth. So that's a soft move. That's me saying, hey, here's the situation. And then a hard move would be if you went up there to investigate and you completely bombed the roll, then a hard move would me doing damage to one of you or capturing one of you, because your failure gave me the opening for whoever was up there to get the drop on you to do something bad to your characters. Um, and so the flow is between like soft moves setting you up, and then the result determining how hard of a move I get to make against you. One thing that most Powered by the Apocalypse game systems do are they have set playbooks. So, like in Dungeon World, somebody plays the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
In Monster of the Week, somebody plays the chosen or a criminal, and they are very set, established
Archetypes.
roles. Yeah, and they're very strong archetypes. And the thing that when I was designing the game, I sort of realized that if you look at the vast span of magical girl or magical transforming heroes, because if you look at it like Voltron's a magical
Sure.
transforming thing, Power Rangers is a magical transforming set, is that they don't have specific roles. Like if you look at Sailor Moon, all of them are basically warriors. They all fight. They all have weapons the same way. They all do roughly all the same things.
Hmm.
And so when I was making a game that revolved around that sort of concept, I couldn't say that, oh, you are the yellow hero, because what does the yellow hero do that's vastly different than the green hero? They get some different abilities, but then that doesn't really capture everything that all of these genres can do. So I really took a step back and said, okay, so what are the sort of tropes that work the best in all these systems? And then realized that the way that I wanted to design the game is that you would choose from 3 different sections to create your own unique playbook. So you would create your own unique character by making choices of who you are in your everyday life. So what are you like at school, at work, the office, at the college classes? Who are you in your day-to-day life? That is choice 1. Choice 2 is what type of magical hero are you? Are you a fighter? Are you a defender? Are you the witch? Are you a pop idol? Or are you the brains behind the whole operations with the tactician? And each of those have very different flavors. And then the final thing is all of them, like all the sailor scouts have a different element that they are attuned to based off of their planet, but really it breaks down to I do fire, I do water, I do wind. Um, and so the final choice is which of those elements do you attuned to? What is the thing that drives your uh, flavor of power? And so it made much more sense for me to allow a person to choose those 3 things independently to form, because that way, even like you can have an entire Sailor Scout the same way, like everybody picks the warrior type, and that's allowed, but then they each have a different connection, like one is for earth, one is for fire, one is for water, and the flavor comes in that way. Plus they're very different people when they're at school, so their everyday identities are vastly different as well. And so I really wanted to be able to capture that when I wrote this game, and a hard coded playbook just wasn't going to cut it. So that's how I came up with the modularized playbook system.
Okay. And so we're going to probably not go, it's probably not going to be tonight, as we're building the characters and learning
Yep.
about the game. But do you have an idea for what kind of a mini campaign here we're going to be playing through? What's our story? What's the scenario?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff will come up as you're making your characters, but we are going to do this sort of standard high school trope. You will be high school students, uh, probably juniors and seniors.
Hmm.
We are going to probably skip the origin part of it. Like, we're not going to go through the whole, hey, I found XYZ, and then it took me 17 episodes to figure out I could transform. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you've all figured out that you should be together as a team and you can transform, but you've never been tested. And that's where we're going to run with this little mini campaign, is really after you learn that you could do this and sort of discovered I can do these things, then you'll be tested against the actual problems in the world.
Okay. So, Brenna, have you put any thought into your character, what you're going to be, what you're going to play?
I have put some thought into it.
I'd love to hear what you're thinking.
Okay. So I was reading through, and probably like the single ability that all the abilities are really cool and would be interesting. But the one that like I immediately was grabbed by Doom, which is a death ability.
Okay, all right.
So I had the idea to do a character whose everyday archetype is the popular one.
Mm-hmm.
Who's really like magnetic and charismatic, and then when she transforms, she becomes this like really like menacing presence.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know. I mean, that may exist in an anime because there's a million billion of them, but that's one that doesn't really jump out at me.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
That's very good.
Yeah, and then like when she transforms for the first time, she's like, ew, like, what are these clothes?
Awesome.
I found the skull and crossbones charm. I thought this was going to be pirate themed.
So I've been thinking about this too, and in 90% of every RPG that I ever play, I find myself being, whether it's by my choice or not, getting thrust into the face role of every game.
Okay.
And I mean, part of that, at least, some of the stuff you guys have, like, I run a channel and I do things on the internet. So people are like, well, you can talk. Or if I'm like,
Good talk.
or I'm in like a game with like 3 other new players and they're like, you tell them what we're going to do. And I was like, you should have told me to not build the guy with 8 charisma to be the face of the party, because now I'm just bad at it. So I think I want to break that mold and go away from that. And I think I want to be, I have had 2 ideas in my head. And one is like the smart, like kind of unassuming one who's sort of like really good at school, but like not great at like confrontation and social encounters. So kind of like inner and reserved.
Mhm.
Um, so that was idea one, and that's basically just a high level concept what I was thinking. And like option two that I was thinking about was like keeping some of that, but just being like the boy crazy one who's just
Mm.
like really, and I was like I could combine the two, but then I feel like I get dangerous towards like Tina Belcher, and I don't want to go that way.
Yeah.
So
I
um
mean,
yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm looking through my everyday identities and I see like the intellectual, and I feel like that's kind of where I'm leaning towards there.
so we'll cover, let's
Yeah.
cover like, so your everyday identity also drives what your stats are.
Okay.
And your stats are what drives your roles.
Okay.
So we'll quickly cover the stats.
Sure.
So the first stat and the first identities are all the physical identities.
Okay.
So they are everything that you do with your body:
Mm.
running, jumping, dodging, hitting, anything physical is captured in that one stat.
Okay.
So that is, you just are, how good am I doing things in the physical world? The next set of identities and the next stat is your mental stats. How smart am I? Now, there is, and I sort of want to stress this. I stress this in the game some, and I want to always stress it. Like, because you have a negative to your mental stat does not equate to you being somehow diminished or unintelligent.
Mm.
Mm.
Mental is how well do are you able to learn and apply things to problem solving, to figuring things out. It's, you still may be smart, but you just don't have a lot of knowledge. Like, you just don't pay attention in school. You still could be a brilliant person, but you just don't know facts.
Mm.
Or under pressure, you're not good at making the connections necessary to put the pieces of the puzzle together. It's not a measure of your intelligence, it's a measure of your mental ability to pull on what you know and apply it effectively.
Okay.
So it's a little different in that it's like, it's not like I have no knowledge. It's like you do have knowledge, you're just not good at recalling it or applying it.
Okay.
The next stat and the next set of identities are emotional identities. An emotion is all about how well you get along with other people. So anything like charm, coercion, threats, anything, it's how good are you at making an emotional connection with people, how good are you at understanding other people's emotions, and how good are you at using those to your benefit or to their benefit. um, the next one is persona, and the
Mm.
persona abilities, and persona is entirely your self sense of worth. How self-confident are you? How good are you at resisting crumbling into a pile of anxiety if somebody questions your motives or questions your right to exist? So persona is much more about your internal strength
Mm.
versus your physical strength. And then the last one is mystical, because we are dealing with magical otherworldly things. What is your actual connection to those other world forces and the forces of magic? So the mystical identities are all about people who are much more on the weird and wild side.
Mm.
Um, how connected are you to the other world? How connected are you to the other weird things? Because part of the game is you always have access to the moves that are under your everyday identity, but you don't gain access to your moves that are part of your archetype or mystical connection until you transform, or if you take a move that allows you access to them at all times. So under each type, there are 4 identities. Like if you've looked through, there's a lot of identities
Mhm.
because there's pluses. So there's whenever you're the strongest in, you get a +2, and then each one comes with a -1 to a specific trait. So like the intellectual has spent their entire life reading books, doing books. They spend all their time in the library and have just never found the need to do a lot of physical things. Like they aren't strong, they aren't necessarily coordinated. They've never seen the reason to focus on it. So like the intellectual gets a +2 to their mental rolls, but will always take a -1 to their physical rolls.
So
Like
when
for
I'm
the
sorry, go ahead.
Yep, and for like the popular person,
Mhm.
they have +2 to emotional. They are great at working with people and talking to people and getting along with each other, but because everybody does everything for them, they've never felt the need to really learn how to do things on their own. So they get a
Mhm.
minus to their mental stat because why think about these problems? I can get people to solve it for me.
Mhm.
I'm just
Mm,
so popular.
I can see how this relationship has developed.
Mhm.
The smart one and the popular one who doesn't feel like they need. I see. All right, this is starting to come
It's all
together
coming
already.
together.
Yeah. So when I look at, for the everyday identities, I pick just one, or is that how that
Yep,
works?
you pick who you are.
Okay, so then I am taking the intellectual. So that
All
gives
right.
me a 2 to my mental stat. Now, do my stats start at anything, or they start from 0 and we're building
They
up?
start at 0.
Okay, so I'm at a -1 physical and a 2 mental, and then I get all these other little abilities that
And
comes
then
with
you
it.
pick one of the 3 underneath that's your starting move.
Oh, okay, I can pick one. Okay,
Yep.
I see. Also, hello, How We Roll podcast. I see you there in the chat. What's going on? This is interesting. I feel like I'm gonna choose this. I've read about this when encountering something new. You can attempt to remember if you've got existing knowledge about it. That
Cool.
sounds like I feel like I'm a
Yeah.
very bookwormy person, so I've probably read about that.
And then you should have 3 other stats that are all zeros,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to put a +1 into one of those. You can
Okay.
pick one other thing that you're pretty good at.
I've read about this, and then all right. So, um, okay. So remind me. So mystical is your connection to the mystical world.
Yep.
Persona was
How strong you are on yourself.
gotcha.
How self-confident you are. Because this is a game about emotions and the bonds that connect us and working as a team, sometimes the villains will fire a depression beam at you to make you sad, and you need
Mm-hmm.
to resist that. And that's where like how strong you are and your sense of self-worth come in.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I am going to take my +1 in mental because I'm sorry, mystical rather, because
Okay.
I feel like I read a lot of books and maybe I've read some funky mystical books.
It's very likely.
You know. Okay, so that defines my everyday identity, and it seems like my next piece to choose is my magical archetype. Correct?
Yes. Yep.
So we've got a pretty substantial list here from what I'm scrolling through and see.
Yep. So
Um,
there are 5 archetypes.
mhm.
There's the idol, which is the sort of pop idol trope.
Mm.
The pop star, the singer, the person that wants to be at center stage. There's the witch, which is all about sort of hexes and glimpsing the future and divinations and all sorts of witchy stuff. There's your standard warrior, which is just I am there with my fists
Mm.
and my weapon. With also has probably one of my favorite moves, which is I have an accessory that's also a weapon.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
awesome.
Very nice.
So you pull off your bracelet and turn it into a sword, or however that works. then there's the defender, which is just the person that is good at stopping things from happening. And then the last one's the tactician, which is the brains behind everything. It's the person that is calling out the shots, who is making sure that the team is working well together. So whichever one you pick, then you pick one of their moves as your starting move, as your magical archetype.
Okay, well, I see. I feel like the tactician is calling to me, being this mental person and literally the brains of the operation. But I feel like it'd be. I'm just looking to see if any of these other ones, like the witch, could also be interesting. But I think I'm gonna follow my gut, and I'm gonna go with the tactician because.
All right, awesome.
I think that makes sense. So, what are you thinking, Brandon? So we know you're the popular one.
Yeah, so I'm doing the popular one, and I think I'm going to take I've Got Connections.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so, no place will be off limits to us when we're exploring.
Yeah. So I've Got Connections is the popular one's uncanny ability just to get into places. So, we need to get something out of that bank. Oh, don't worry, I've got connections. They roll with emotional. It's basically how well are they connected to the world. It can go horribly, horribly wrong. So if you fail those rolls, you tend to get banned from ever entering those places again. And you may even lose the contact that you got in trouble by trying to get in.
Well, I feel good about it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right, so I think I'm going to choose that one for my everyday. Then my magical. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
In the Idol's ability, All Eyes on Me.
Yep.
Says you charm your target with your grand presence, make a convince someone roll with plus persona. Charm targets have no restrictions on what they will do. Are you using charm in the actual like mechanical sense? Like you have to use charm, or is it more just like you compel them in some way?
You compel them in some way.
So like I could do that with like intimidate.
Oh, absolutely. Like it could be a frightening presence. It could be a welcoming presence. It's the charmed is sort of the they are under your sway however you got there. Normally when you try to convince somebody, the restrictions come in that they're either going to ask you to do something or they won't do something that would put them in harm's way. So with that ability, you sort of override. If you succeed, you override their common sense and their reluctance, and they'll do what you ask.
Cool. Okay, then I'm gonna take that one because then for my mystical connection, I'm gonna take Doom in the death element.
So you have aligned yourself with death.
Yeah.
Great. So as the tactician, I'm gonna choose telepathy because I think that could be really good to be able to link everybody up mentally so we can all communicate real fast. And then I can also keep track of where everybody is as long as we're on Earth. So then I see next is the mystical connection, which seems like there is several different elements.
There are.
Okay.
I think I have 10 total.
Yeah, I see your standard traditional elements, but then I see things like metal and light and dark and obviously life and death.
Yep.
So what am I going to pick? Interesting. So while I'm looking through these and deciding, Greg, how much, I mean, you said it was about a year and a half it took you to write this. How much anime research did you do beforehand?
Okay, so my life, like I've watched it like a lot. I will say this: I tried to go back to watching Sailor Moon, and I forgot how, like, the first season is so plotting and so formula, like. But also, it was really good to watch that first season because I got a lot out of what that formula was and what the strong tropes were. And like I would say, so I was a huge, and I still am. I was a huge Voltron fan back when it first came out. Like that was my first. That and Robotech were my first animes because they were on. I want to say they were on PBS. I don't know how accurate
You know what?
that was.
Voltron may have actually been my first. Now that you mention it.
And so, there was this big sense of like the biggest thing that they all emphasized, and one of the things that I found lacking in Powered by the Apocalypse games, was the idea of working together as a team is important.
Mm.
And so I really sought to change that in this game. And so, like, I watched all of those. I watched all of the new Voltron seasons, except I'm still halfway through the last season because of reasons.
Mm.
And then like the new She-Ra hit, and She-Ra, apart from the fact that only one person transforms magically, it is still a
Yeah,
magic
absolutely, 100%.
one. Like, they still, so one of the big things that I really, really wanted to make happen in the game is really focus on the team aspect of it. And so we'll get to that in just a little bit. But I did a lot, and then it was like, okay, so they're really based off of elements. And so like the obvious ones, fire, water, earth, and air, are in almost all of them. But then when they have 5 people, they start getting real. They kind of get out there. It's like, I'm earth, I'm plants. Okay, like that's the same thing.
Yeah.
But I sort of liked the fact that like in Power Rangers, suddenly the White Ranger comes in because of the element of white.
Sure.
So I went a step further. So I took, the 4 standard earth, fire, water, air, and then I added sort of what are called the Western elements, which is life, death, light, and dark.
Mm.
And then I added in the 2 modern elements, which is lightning and metal. So lightning, sort of tech, and metal, manufacturing. Those are sort of like the modern day elements that we deal with and interact with on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm real torn because they all just look so good.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong.
And I'm just like, part of me wants to be like, oh, let's do life. And like life also is like healing, but also like plants and restraining vines, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you're like, lightning is like tech, but it's also ball lightning. Like,
yes,
that's pretty sweet too.
Lightning. Yeah,
right, exactly. I mean, like, who doesn't want to shoot lightning? But then like light has laser beams, and again, lasers. This is a lot of interesting stuff coming up here. So what is my nerdy tactician? What is she like here? I think we're gonna go lightning because of the tech aspect, but I think what she's gonna choose is not gonna be like, she's gonna get some sort of. I wanted to go with fast right out the gate because I feel like that, or quick thinking, and be like really play up that mental piece. But kind of want to just go with ball lightning because it says ball lightning.
It's a solid choice.
Yeah, we're going with ball lightning.
Cool.
All right, so there we go.
All right, so they do come with tags. So fire and wounding for ball lightning, they are specific tags. Fire means you can shoot it a long distance.
Mm-hmm.
And wounding, I believe, does just a static 2 points of damage.
Okay.
I will look. It's further back. All right. So then this is an important part of the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to do this when Katie is able to join us. You need to figure out what type of relationship you have with each other.
Okay.
So the one thing that always still drives me bonkers in a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games is the aid action is a mostly useless action. In every game, the aid action only ever gives a +1 to somebody else's roll. So it only makes any real change is if they roll a 6 or if they roll a 9, because then you get pushed up into the next level of success. And so most of the time it's a wasted action. In my game, one of the very first move in the basic moves and one of the biggest moves that you will deal with throughout the game is the "we can do it together" move. And what that does is not only does it give you a plus to the person's roll, but whoever you help gets what's called a power point in their power pool. And so power points are a resource that you need to gather by working together. And they can be spent in a wide variety of ways. So if you have one power point, you can just spend it immediately to gain another +1 to your roll. It's probably the worst way to use it, but sometimes you're like, we have to get past this, and this has to happen. The second way is if you spend 2 power points, you gain advantage on whatever roll you're going to make. So you'll roll 3d6 and you keep the higher 2 numbers.
Okay.
But most importantly, power points drive your team attack. So there are certain monsters, villains, row beasts, giant vampire monsters that all normal attacks are useless against. You are just throwing yourself against a brick wall. And so as long as you have as many power points +1 as there are players, so in this case, if we're playing with 3, if you have 4 power points amongst all of you, somebody can call for a team attack and do a massive one big roll to see if they can defeat the monster by doing a powerful super blast or however they want to name it. If you spend 2 more than you have players, so in our case we have 3 players, if you spend 4 you can make the team attack. If you spend 5 you can have advantage on that roll. And so what I wanted to sort of create was the tension and dynamic of you have this resource and you only have it for this session. Do you keep it? Do you spend it early to get early advances, but if something comes at you and they make that row beast grow and you have no chance of defeating it, like you may have to run because you don't have the ability to overcome it because you spent all of your goodwill energy earlier. And so we can do it together. The results of that die roll are different whether you are in a cooperative relationship with each other or a competitive relationship with each other. And relationships can be asymmetrical. Like you can think, oh, I am always supporting my friend, and they can think I always have to do better than them. Their kindness is always out showing me. So I have to do something better. I'm always competing with them. I stress this every time. They are flavor texts and they do have slightly different benefits, but both types of relationships offer a benefit. The flavoring is a little bit different, but like there's no downside to saying I'm always competing with everybody. Is the anime trope of the friendly rival. We are pushing against each other to do better. We are always arguing because we always want the other person to be better, to do better. And so I wanted to capture that, but not have it be like, oh, this is the weaker choice because cooperative is always better. Cooperative isn't better. It's just slightly different.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, we'll have to figure out what our relationship is going to be and our interesting team attacks. Because I was going to say that when I read that was a thing, it happens in all of them. You know, everybody tries their base move, but it doesn't work. And now we got to combine all of our Power Ranger weapons together to make the big one, or we got to make the Megazord or Voltron.
Yeah, and
whatever.
there's some posturing like, Oh, I knew you'd need my help.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I guess other things, I'm just scrolling through the document here, right? So transformation, right? We got to have
Yep.
whatever our mystic item is that allows
Well,
us to
so
transform.
you choose. So
Okay.
every transformation comes with a drawback.
Okay.
And there are 4 different
Oh, I
drawbacks
see.
that you have to take one.
Mhm.
So the 4 drawbacks are either you have to have an item to be able to transform. So that's like I have to have a watch or a charm, and if I lose that item, I can't transform. The second one is the transformation process is very noticeable. It is bright, it is flashy, and people will notice that it's happening.
Mhm.
3, the transformation process takes a long time, like a few minutes. Like there's just a lot that you have to get right on the outfit, and this has to go here. And so transforming takes time, and in stressful situations, you may not have that time to lose.
Mhm.
And the last one is that when you transform, the final forms all look just exactly like you. So
Ah,
there's no keeping that secret. Like your face is clearly visible and you still look like yourselves. So one of those 4 has to be the drawback of the transformation process.
Okay.
and is that a group decision?
Yeah,
Yep.
because you all
Looks
get
like
the
it.
same problem.
Okay. I guess we should discuss with Katie, but where are you leaning, Brenna, based on those?
I'm kind of leaning towards having a very noticeable transformation process.
Okay, yeah, the few minutes one would be pretty bad when we get into the fight and it's just like, hang on, and then like the music starts and we're just like
Yeah.
slowly spinning
And
as
the music's just looping.
as ribbons are flying out or lightning strikes or whatever,
Right.
and it's just like, man, really hope they don't attack us while this is going on, or we're gonna be in some trouble.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think noticeable one could be good. I think that's not too bad. And then
Yeah.
we don't
Mystic
necessarily
item is
have to
good
look
too.
exactly like ourselves. So
Correct.
that
Yeah.
may
Yeah.
help with the secret identity piece.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that's in the book that my important part of the book is that if you don't pick the final form, it has to look exactly like yourselves. Your transformed version of yourself can be anything.
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
you can transform, like we all turn into animals, we all turn into aliens. Like there's not a limit as to what that looks like.
Mhm.
It's the trope is a lot of them you're like, oh well, they look like Sailor Moon, all their hair grew out.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But everybody assumes they're different people. I mean, her hair grew
Mhm.
2 inches, but it was like, I have no idea who you were.
Yeah,
How
right.
you can't be Sailor Moon? Her hair is longer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
You
like
have 2 things in your hair, and she never had
she never
those.
had
Yeah,
to.
right. A
Like
tiara? What?
in one of the play tests, when a person transformed, he was also death aligned. He turned into, and I forget how to say it exactly. I think it's Durahan. But
Mhm.
basically, he transformed into a knight that had no head.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So it was just a suit of armor with
That's
a giant
awesome.
sword. Um,
Cool.
because functionally, you can still function. Like,
Yeah.
go
You're
for it.
magical.
You're
Whatever.
Yeah.
magical. Like it's magic. It's fine. Anything's possible.
Okay.
Mhm.
And at that, so I think, I mean, we'll discuss with Katie in the next week about that. But I think I'm down with a noticeable transformation, and then we decide kind of what our final transformed forms will look like.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I see you have some other things. Do you gain masks? Are you color coded? Um, that whole fun stuff.
Yeah. I mean, also one of the things is you can have a very impractical costume,
Right, because magical
and it doesn't
transformation.
matter.
Yeah.
Like the
That's
impracticality of the costume has no bearing on how effective you are in the world.
Mhm.
right.
Like,
Yeah, that's for
um,
sure.
and then the last thing that you get to also decide as a group is, who is your mystical creature?
Oh, I'm so excited for this.
I was waiting for this.
So
gonna be
who
big.
is your team mascot? And it can be anything. I will say so far in playtests, I have had a giant raccoon that was masquerading as the high school principal and nobody noticed, except for the people who were the magical team were the only people that were aware that he was actually a raccoon and not a human being. I've had a squirrel that may or may not actually talk. There was some contention at the table where it could have just been a regular old squirrel that they carried around with them. That they
That's
actually did
great.
at one point let loose in a mall.
Nice.
We've had a bright yellow bat that wore a top hat and a monocle.
Okay.
We've had AI that was installed in a drone,
Ooh.
and that would project an anime cat when it wanted to talk to everybody, but also would show
Aw.
up on their watches as an app.
Nice.
I love that. What's
Yeah.
the little mascot's name in Glitter Force? Is it like Sugar or Bunny or something?
I know.
Oh, I only watched the first season, but
yeah, same. And like, it's not a particularly good show, but I love that little thing.
It's not a great show, but it's fun.
But every time that came on screen, I was like, hell yeah, Glitter Force.
oh man.
He was a little bear, wasn't he?
I think so.
But it wasn't, it was like an alien thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely from the other world, but
yeah. Whatever it was, it's adorable and I love it.
What was it? Wow. Well, that's gonna listen. If it's anything like any game I've ever played, that's gonna be the. This will be like yeah. Transformations. Let's sit down and talk about this every day for like 2 hours till we figure out what our companion's gonna be.
Yeah, I definitely vote for something cute.
I'm fine with that.
It is a big decision to make.
Yeah.
It is, and it looks like it does have not only a traditional we have to have them because every group has one, whether they be, you know.
And people who try to tell me that Power Rangers didn't have one, you are forgetting A, the giant face in the computer.
Sure.
B, the annoying robot that ran around and literally did nothing.
Yeah, you can't tell me Alpha 5 is not the, you know, I'm trying to think of another one, but, you know, Alpha 5 is right up there with pretty much all of them.
And Voltron, Princess Aurora's 5 mice.
Yeah, absolutely. They
are always there. There's always a little creature running around.
And those ones were actually helpful at times. Alpha 5, just to run around and say, aye, and not actually do anything. But he was there.
Mechanically, the mystical creature also does serve a benefit or detriment.
Okay.
Once per session, you can consult with the mystical companion that you have. And it is a straight 50-50 roll. You roll 2d6 and you get what you get. Okay. So either they are incredibly helpful or incredibly non-helpful and make everything worse.
So Alpha 5, Luna, like that's where we're at right now. Is basically.
I just love that the 7 to 9 is they aren't sure what's happening, but they have your back, and I just feel like that's how I feel all the time.
I don't know what's going on, but I'll help however I can.
I believe in you. That's all I know.
So I'm just looking at. So I know I have. So hit points are 10 plus your physical stat.
Yep.
So in my case, 9.
Yep.
So all right, and looks like I think that's it for the majority of the character sheet. Till like relationships, I guess we got to figure that out.
Yep. And so like that can be you can figure out between the two of you like what your relationships are.
In that relationship section, what does it say on the character sheet when it says like co versus B? Yeah,
so CO for cooperative versus for are you competitive?
Competitive.
And then in the game, things can cause your relationship to break.
Oh, broken. Okay, got it.
So if you fail at helping each other out, if you get in each other's way, the villain does whatever, your relationships can break. And if the relationship breaks, you get some pretty hefty penalties. So whenever that person's around, you will always take a -1 to any persona rolls because you are emotionally bothered by them being around, and that's a source of contention. And while you are interacting with them, you'll always take a -2 to all emotional rolls until you can sit down and repair that relationship. And
Wow.
there's a entire move about trying to repair your relationships and fix them. Those are the quote unquote filler episodes where everybody's at the beach.
Yes.
Sure.
I love a beach episode.
So I feel like our relationship right now at this point is at least cooperative. Whether or not it's how knowing that is, the fact that you're the popular one who thinks other people will do that, and I'm likely the one who does your homework for you.
Yeah.
I feel like that's cooperative. I mean, maybe that's how it started, and now that's like still continuing, but also we have our magical transformations and we fight evil. So, like,
yeah, I think so. Like, I feel like we maybe had our transformations like the same event, like triggered them. So we went through that experience together. So we may have been on different like ends of the social spectrum, but we had some kind of like unifying experience.
I think I like the sound of that. That works for me. And
Cool.
then
So what's your character's name then? Do you have a name?
I don't. That's also the hardest part.
That's always the hardest part.
I mean, I can tell you I've absolutely fallen asleep at an MMO character creation screen. Like, I've made the character and I'm sitting on like the name screen, and there's like 5 names that I try and they're taken. So then I'm like going through like all sorts of baby name websites and like fantasy generating name
generator, yeah.
And then I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I'm gonna get it. And then all of a sudden, I like my arm is asleep. I've fallen asleep like this. This elbow's up here, and I'm like, I wake up. It's like 3:00 in the morning. This elbow, like I can't move this arm, and I'm like, oh. And then like the game's timed out, and I got to do the whole thing all over again. So
So
this is
what
gonna
you're saying is it's gonna
take some time.
BehindTheName.com, my favorite.
Really, I'm gonna write that one down.
It is brilliant because it has so many options, and you get to control that. So like, not only does it do like all of the Earth origin names, it also goes into myth names, ancient names, biblical, but then also they've added entire sections for whimsical and fantasy. So like, you can just say, give me everything, and let it come up with like completely random choices. And I love it. I love it.
Awesome.
There's so many great names in there.
Whimsical, you say? Well, let me find some whimsical names. I'm feeling a little whimsy at the moment. Yeah, it is interesting.
So I already went through this process today. I spent about an hour.
Okay, well, let me know.
Earlier. So while you're looking, I could say my character's name.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so her everyday name is Kara Caldera.
Okay. I like it. It's very anime.
Yeah. And then her hero name is Void Heroine Carnelian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you go on? Was there like a magical transformation, or was this all you? Because now I'm curious.
The Void Heroine did come from a magical girl name generator.
Nice.
Which there is one. And then the Carnelian, I was looking up girls' names or just any names that were related to like precious metals or minerals or whatever, and carnelian is a type of gemstone. So
I am a geologist. I am quite familiar. So
well,
now I feel like I gotta go with
Hey, that could be like our theme.
That's kind of
Yeah.
it's kind of where I'm leaning towards some sort of
With
rock
Cara
theme.
Caldera, do her friends call her Cece? Or is that like no, that's not a good nickname.
Yeah, I think it's probably more that like you don't call her Cece.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, so if Katie's character's your rival, though, she's going to call you that.
Yeah.
Because that's how that's going to work.
Yeah,
This is important.
100%.
This is important building stuff. How do you annoy each other's character?
Call her Cece.
Cece.
Yeah.
More importantly, how does the villain take advantage of these things?
All right, now I got to start looking up magical girl generators so I can... Oh, this one gives you the whole story. That's interesting.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that one.
You are a 21-year-old magical girl. Your personality type... You're traveling horror. You like traveling, horror movies, and biology. Your powers are based around music, and your weapon is a staff. Your signature attack is Solar Crescent Stardust. Your outfit is night-themed shirt, night with a K though, and skirt in turquoise and jet black. It has striped stockings. Your transformation item is a pen. You work in a team of 8. Your animal companion is a snake. This is a pretty interesting website.
She sounds amazing. Can you drop the link to that in the chat? Because
yes, I absolutely. This is pretty fun. Yeah, I will put this in the. Here you go.
Sweet.
That's the Twitch chat for everybody in Twitch, and then I will drop it here in our chat as well. These are fantastic. Like, and it gives you like the actual personality types, like whether you're like introspective and like the full.
I got ISFP for mine.
I don't remember what that actually means, but I remember that I did that personality test one time.
Well, my transform item is a cell phone.
Ooh.
My talking animal companion is a weird cat alien.
Oh, mine is a bunny.
Oh, man.
It's just not giving you a name.
It doesn't give you a name.
Everything but the name.
Everything but the name. Well, this chick has this one that I just made here. She's got basically candy cane transformation outfits, red and white striped. So there's definitely... I gotta go back and get my magical girl transformation. Enter your name for diagnosis. Let's not go there.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
The 7 Sanctum one is pretty good.
Yeah, that's the one that I used for her. Yeah. That's where I got Void Heroine.
Oh wait, I got 7th Sanctum. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wait, come back. Okay, so I guess I should probably come up with my character's base name though. So you also have Caldera, which is also, I don't know if that was planned, that that's rock based as well. But
well, it means it's like a rock, like a lake,
imploded volcano.
Water formation. Yep. Yeah, like it means cauldron, I think. But it's
yeah, it's when the top half of a volcano kind of blows off and it divots in. So now it's time for me to sit here and think about all of my years of geology and what interesting base names I can make based on that. All right,
so we'll all sleep while you're at character creation.
Yes. There's some pretty interesting ones that just came up here. Let's see. Lady Screamer was the name that came up in 7th Sanctum.
That's so good.
All fear before Lady Screamer. Oh man, this is Destiny Pixie. That's an interesting one. Solar Silver Soldier. That sounds like a Marvel character to me, but
yeah, that's
I'm just trying to find a good font for my character sheet now while you're doing that.
Well, hey, these are all important things. Yeah. Ooh, that one says... So I have lightning based. That one came up with Storm Angel. That's interesting.
Have you decided on a everyday name for her?
No, now I'm trying to balance my names that I have for rock based things for a regular name versus also for a because like I really want to make her real name now, her everyday name rock based, and also her hero name have like a rock in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But now I need to separate those two because
Right.
yours is very subtle in the everyday name, so I like
Yeah.
that.
I went on a site, one of those baby name sites for I was searching like scientific or like science-based baby names.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, some of the names these people are coming up with.
I
They
just
were they were like, "What do you think about entropy, but just for a boy?"
I mean, I'm
Okay.
here for it. Magical girl name, Stealthy Blessing Corrector.
That's
So my wife texted me earlier. So she we just had a baby, so in like her she's in like pregnancy groups, and one of them named their daughter Freya Lavender Moon Leonard. Like that's the full name.
That's a lot.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Also, I tried to look up tech based names for babies, and one of them was Dell, like the computer.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's also Mac here, Linux as a name for a kid, and then the final one is Dovahkiin. Like that's
the same person who suggested entropy also suggested Tesla.
Oh, see, that could work.
Oh, when I said, how about Perl? Perl is a programming language. Yeah, it is.
Oh, Siri also came up.
Ruby.
I got Pixel here is another one. It's not actually that bad.
Vista.
Pixel could come in cute because then you could go by Pixie.
Yeah, I'll write Pixel down. That one's. Unless my favorite here is Cookie because of cookies for websites.
Oh yeah.
Bill as in Gates. Like this is what
Bill as in Gates.
Wow. That's great.
Steve as in Jobs.
Oh man.
I mean, probably a lot of good like star and moon names.
Here's one was Acer and then also Mouse.
Acer and Mouse. That's great.
These like people. Stylus. Oh
no.
Man. That actually, we may be making Silver Stylus as a magical girl name. I have to think about that.
That would be good.
Oh, that's actually really good.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially if like your pen is your magic item.
I'm gonna write down Silver Stylus because lightning can be silver-ish based, so we're gonna write that down. So I just don't know if I want to throw in a rock on there as well. Rock-based last names. Here we go. Searching. Maybe I could make myself Netscape. Maybe that'll be my name. Netscape. Or Opera.
Ubuntu.
There you go, right? Oh man, I tell you, people are weird.
Yeah.
All right, geology.
Okay, isn't fulgurite when lightning hits sand?
It is fulgurite, yeah. Oh, it could be. Yeah, that's true. It could be Silver Stylus fulgurite. That also makes me. It's a little bit of a mouthful, though.
It's a bit of a mouthful, yeah. I'm trying to think if there is a like storm aligned gemstone.
I mean, fulgurite is the one.
I was gonna say this might be kind of boring, but for last name, what about like glass? Like when lightning strikes sand?
Oh, okay. Well, if we're gonna go, I like your Stan Lee alliteration in Cara Caldera. So I may make my character's first name Garnet because that's my favorite gemstone.
Ooh, nice.
And it might
That's
just
pretty.
make it Garnet Glass is her name, and then Silver Stylus
name.
is her transformation name.
Oh, I like that. I actually like that a lot.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Well, actually, one of the characters when I was in the one time I did have a good like MMO experience naming a character was when I was still in college. As a geologist, and I had just learned about garnet gneiss. So gneiss is GNEISS. It's the black, white and black banded stone.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get garnet gneiss, it's that with little garnet red chunks throughout it. And I was like, man, playing a game where you can be an earth-based elementalist character, garnet gneiss, boom, got my character ready to roll. Like,
that's awesome.
That was the one time. The only time that it came relatively quickly.
Well, so this was pretty quick.
Yeah, I guess this is a lot better than I thought. It was nice to talk out the process with other people in the group, also with the internet. I like Ruby Rock. There was one thrown out there as well in the chat. But yeah, Garnet Glass, and her hero name is Silver Stylus, and she's the intellectual tactician that shoots ball lightning. So
And she's accompanied by Void Heroine Carnelian.
Yes, that's right. And we have to figure out what we're going to look like.
The popular idol of Death and Doom.
Look, goth death is very hip right now.
This is true. Yeah, and we'll have to pull Katie in. I mean, how dare she be enjoying her anniversary? Devin, dude, what's up? Why you gotta be like that? Why you gotta pick today?
Katie, if you go back and watch this, I hope you're having a lovely time.
Yes, I also do hope you're enjoying yourself as well, but
still.
How dare you?
She can make it up to us by giving her character a gemstone-based name.
That's true. And also helping us decide what our magical companion is going to be.
Right. Yeah, you have homework.
Yeah, so I guess I should also talk about that I see a bunch of you been popping in and out of the chat. So the way this is going to work is basically for the next 3 weeks, so the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th, we're going to, which will basically take us pretty much through the entirety of the Kickstarter for Glitter Hearts as well, which is pretty cool. You saw kind of we built characters. I mean, in less than an hour, we built characters, and then obviously we talked a little bit about the game at the start, and we went through the process of naming characters and fleshing things out. But you could build a character in under an hour. We built 2 characters in under an hour, and if Katie was here, I'm sure it would have been 3. And in doing so, we now have we're ready to roll into a campaign, and Greg is going to do that for us in the next couple weeks here. And that way you guys can get to see how great this already Kickstarted funded game is, and you can bring this into your home game. Because I know that if I had known there was a magical transforming RPG when I was younger, I absolutely would have played it. The amount of times that I've had conversations with people, mostly Katie specifically, about trying to replicate a magical transforming hero in Dungeons and Dragons, it doesn't work that well. I've done my best, and we've talked about it.
I've seen the homebrew stuff.
Yeah, and some of it. We found a homebrew class, level 1 to 20 class called like Magical Girl. Mm-hmm. We were gonna try to do like a one shot of that, but that ended up not happening. But now we're doing this, so full circle. But yeah, it's this is the way to do it, right? I mean, if it doesn't exist, you go out and you make it. Mm-hmm. And now it's gonna be designed, and we talked about all the tropes so far, right? I mean, it's hitting them all. So I think, unless Greg or Brenna, you have anything else specifically, I'm going to write Cara Caldera down on my sheet under relationships now that I know her name.
Yeah, put it in your relationship box.
And then I think we can kind of round this out and call it a night. It was a little bit shorter than originally planned. But next week, I will be more on top of things to make sure that we can start promptly at 9 p.m. Eastern and then get 2 hours, at least full hours of gameplay in for you guys to check out. Whatever our group is called. I don't know.
We had a lot to figure out.
Yeah. I don't know. There's definitely like but it doesn't matter because we rock.
Yeah.
That kind of, yeah, exactly. We'll figure it out.
That was we'll improve on that.
Yeah, we're not, that's not there yet.
You're very new at this process.
Yes, that's true. We'll work on it.
Yeah.
And posing and all of that good stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess I'll just jump back over to you, Greg, and have you plug your stuff one more time so people can know where to find you. And I will work in the meantime to build up chat command so we can post that out. But
the easiest way to find me is on Twitter at White Wing, which is for people who often ask why is that was a superhero character that I played in college.
Nice.
What
game was that?
It was the Marvel superheroes, the phase rip system, which I love, which I was the first thing I looked at when I was going to make this game, but it lacked it lacked a lot of the tropes. It's very much a comic book game and not anything else. So as much as I love that game, I did not go down that path. And from there you can find the link to this Kickstarter. So Glitter Hearts on Kickstarter. You can find links to the podcast that I do, Very Random Encounters, which is the actual play podcast. We did do a mini season of Glitter Hearts with Bianca Zelda, so you can hear the adventures of a volleyball team and you can transform into superheroes. So that was a lot of fun. And then you can get connections to the Pokemon podcast that I do. It's super effective. So that's probably your main hub for finding me.
All right. And Brenna, what about you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Brenna Noonan, Instagram at Brenna Games. I'm not as prolific a podcaster, Twitcher. I'll occasionally guest on some shows, but usually I'm just tweeting about dice and RPGs and stuff.
Don't let that fool you. I mean, she puts in a ton of work and does amazing jobs on so many things.
Thanks.
And I mean, again, if you haven't checked out Starling Games and any of the products that they have, you should definitely go and do that.
Thank you.
And if you haven't seen Polyhero Dice, what, you've been living under a rock for the past like 3 years?
Come on.
I mean, that's the whole reason Katie and I are friends. The first thing I ever sent her was the Wizard Dice Kickstarter.
It brings people together.
It does. It brings people together.
That's how I met my fiance.
There you go. See? Look at this. Polyhero Dice brings people together.
It brings people together.
We might be giving away some dice.
Yes, we may be. So stay tuned to the channel next week. We're going to probably be giving away some cool dice that you can win if you're here in the chat. So, I mean, who doesn't love dice and magical transformations? And I mean, look at this overlay that I built like 5 minutes before we went live. It's so pink.
It's so
perfect.
Pink and pretty.
Yeah. So
and you can read the logo on it.
That was the important part. Believe me, the previous iterations not so great.
was not as legible.
No.
It went through a couple of trial runs before.
Yeah. So, and I'm Ted. This is Nerd Immersion. If you haven't seen, I've been putting out pretty much consistent YouTube content every day, right around lunchtime, and that's worked out pretty well. You guys seem to really enjoy that. I'll be back tomorrow streaming my Evil campaign from the room right next door. It's a month of Evil game, so that'll be fun. And then this Wednesday, I'm trying to replicate the Strider class from Dragon's Dogma in It Builds character this week. So that's going to be a learning experience for me. Last week, we built Kirito from Sword Art Online, and we built Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho. And before that, I built Wargreymon, the the Digimon. I tried to make a Digimon as a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons character because that's what somebody suggested. And I made the call at the start that I will try and make just about everything you suggest, as long as it's not like a literal god. Which is why I had to veto a couple of the ones in between where they're like, "Can you build like Cthulhu?" And I was like, "No, it's not a character.
It's not
a playable character." But yeah, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming up. I've actually currently have builds from now through the end of April of next year because you guys have come out with so many suggestions. So
wow, nice.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it's a good time. Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah, I've done Pokemon, I've done Darth Vader, I did Iron Man, I did, Tingle and Shrek. You guys come up with a lot of weird things for me to build, so, you never know what'll happen.
What was Shrek like
He was a barbarian, I think we made him, because he gets angry about people being in his swamp.
Yeah. I'm a barbarian fits.
What did you do for the ogre? Was like a half orc or something?
I think we may have done like a half orc or maybe the full-blooded orc and kind of like tweaked it a little bit. So I try to keep the homebrew on that to a minimum so that if somebody wants to try to play this at their table, they don't have to like reach for so many concessions to their DM to get them to do it. I do sometimes have to do stuff, right? Like we did I made a homebrew race to do Hellboy because I was like, he's not a tiefling. He's not. He's way not. We gotta go beyond that. So I think we used like a Cambion base and kind of went from there and kind of made it that way. But yeah, like some of these things we're stretching. Like I said, every time someone suggests an anime character, unless they're like, Sword Art Online was a video game where people had stats, so that kind of worked out okay.
Right.
And someone was just like, just build him in the real world and just make him a commoner and just call it done. And I was like, I could have, but
that kind of defeats the spirit of the exercise.
Yeah, like certain characters are okay, right? Like I did Samurai Jack and I did, Rurouni Kenshin, Kenshin from Rurouni Kenshin. Those are anime characters that are still somewhat grounded in like what they have. And then someone was like, do Ichigo from Bleach. And I was like, from when?
From which part?
Because you go from the beginning, it's a buildable character. You go towards the end, it's like, what do you want to do? I could do it. Cool. Everything's fine.
I'm going to cut through space and time because reasons.
Exactly. So that's how it. And then, again, if you haven't seen it, I do enjoy having people in the chat because I let people like clearly influence what I'm going to do. If they're like, no, it shouldn't be that, it should be this, then I will say, well, make a case for it and let's change it.
Have you built one of the Sailor Scouts yet?
I built Tuxedo Mask. Someone way early on, I think it was like episode 3, someone suggested Tuxedo Mask.
So basically had no abilities and no powers and that look good.
I think we made him a bard.
Charisma 20.
I think we made him, I think the glamour bard was out when we did that. So I think we made him that so he can compel people to like listen to him and believe in what he has to say. But that was what he did. He's really good at like, here I am. I'm really important. Look at me. Goodbye. And then like a really high stealth score. So he could just dimension door out of there.
That's great.
You've done nothing to help.
Yes.
I love that meme. But she didn't do anything.
Oh man, this is gonna be
to show up today.
This is gonna be a great show, and I'm very excited that you guys are gonna get to share it with us. So be sure to stay tuned for Monday nights for the month of September. It's Evil Month and also Glitter Hearts Month. What a great combination for 2 back-to-back things.
Yeah.
Pink Sparkle Magical Girl transformations, followed by just really poor, questionable, evil decisions as we murder people in Faerun on Tuesdays and be high school girls on Monday.